Hey guys, well, we've got some adventure for today's shave. I've got this hoss of a face chopper right here. This is probably a 9/8, a little bit bigger than an inch in terms of width. It's definitely the largest one I think that I've got. I just got it in recently from somebody who no longer shaved with a straight very much, and sold me several of his razors. And I am not a big straight razor shaver, but I'm learning. I've got maybe 10, maybe just a hair less than 10 straight shaves under my belt. Well, this is my first time trying a big guy like this. I'm not an authority. I want to make that clear. However, I am pretty good at lathering, so I think we're going to get that right today. Viking is excellent in terms of performance. They have some interesting scents. Some of them are dupes, like they have one of CrvShv, like so many makers do. And this one is more on the unique side. Unfortunately, it's just very light. A little bit of sandalwood or some amber type scents. More on the smooth woody side. And it is used. And I tried 3 Viking soaps recently, a few months ago, maybe even several months ago, and I loved the performance of all 3. However, the scent on one of them just wasn't very interesting. The scent on another one was not there, and the scent on another one may have been just kind of weak as well. And there are several makers that are doing this, that just are kind of, they're not wanting to make the soap too intense. They also may be catering to face latherers who overload and end up with 4 times as much product on their face as I do. And so the scent then may be a little nicer for those kind of folks. All right, other gear. This is my Stirling Finest Badger, a terrific brush. And I've had it soaking for several minutes prior to the shave. At least I think it's my Stirling Finest Badger. Look at the description if it's important to you to know for sure, and I'll have it in there. As well as the scent notes on the Tree of Life is what this one's called. And the guy lives in Ames, Iowa. There we go. Tree of Life. So, just another small business, kind of doing it as a hobby. I think he's a young guy. So, glad to support his. Oh, hey, with the new wide angle, you can see some of my stuff back there. I have a couple of Stirling balms standing by, just in case I rough up my face with this razor. And if I just feel like vanilla at the end of the shave without as much need for a balm, I've got this Deep Conditioning by Nivea. All right, so here's the soap. We'll be using my 3D printed lather bowl, and no need for a blade because we're not using a double-edged razor today. And I think we're good to go. One of the big rules, one of the big things to watch out for with a straight is if you get moisture in the hinge, then that's kind of the end. It's the start of the end, because you're not going to be able to get the moisture out of there. I wonder about putting it in a bag of rice like we do with our cell phones. I wonder if that would pull the moisture out before it caused any damage. But then anyway, once the rust starts, then it just starts creeping out, and eventually, you have to do some kind of restoration project. And this is, in fact, vintage steel. It's from Wade & Butcher. I love the look of their razors. And it's been restored, it's been buffed and shined and polished. You can just barely see the word Wade right there where it would normally be. It's a very sick blade. Now, it's not a wedge. Maybe it's half hollow. I don't know my terminology very well, but it does have some hollow nature to it. So I'm hoping it won't be too much of a learning curve for me. I've been pretty successful in all the straights that I've tried to do. And so if it gets tricky, what I can do is just do the cheeks with the straight and leave the tricky neck part to do with a double-edged razor. And so I have done that sometimes, and I highly recommend that for beginners because the cheeks are pretty easy and lets you get used to the motions of holding it and things like that. So don't any advice I pass to you about straight razor is stuff I've learned from guys who've been doing it for a long time, and I'm just going to pass along, and I don't really have any new thoughts. I don't really have any of my own thoughts about straight razors because I need to get more time in for that. All right. Let me get my face wet. My beard is not. I shaved earlier this morning and it's late at night right now. And so my beard is not a full 24-hour growth. But we'll just shave anyway because I want to get back in my nightly rhythms. And now let's load the soap. I forgot to look and see what kind of load to go with. So why don't we go with like a 25-second load. Shook most of the water out of the brush here. And we've got 25 rolling around right now, so this means we can just kind of go to 50. Soap probably hasn't been used in a while, so it's probably the reason for 25 instead of 15 or 20. This is a brush with a little bit of backbone. It's not too much. I did have to mount it as high as it would go, and there's 25 seconds. You know what, just for grins, let's do 5 more seconds. So we could just say a 30-second load. And there we go. If we end up with more lather than we need, then that's okay. All right. This is a CravingShaving handle. It is just about the most ergonomic thing out there. Wonderful long handle for a bowl latherer. Now you can choose, if you're a bowl latherer, you can choose when to start adding water. You could add some just right away. You could add small amounts right away. Ease it into it. You could also add, if you use a soap long time, then you'll get a very good feel for how many teaspoons of water you might need if you do choose to use a syringe or some other kind of measuring device. And so you could also choose to put all the water you need right away at the very beginning of the lather building process here. I usually choose to do 1 or 1.5 teaspoons pretty quickly. I do work the lather a little bit with just the water that's in the knot. I do find that's helpful most of the time. Everything's working really well so far. We've got 3 in there. I moved a little more quickly than usual, but I think that's okay. I've used this soap base enough to where I know it's a good quality soap base that will hold a lot of water. Yeah, it continues to be a scent that you're not gonna fill your nose with. It's not coming up to me from this low position. It's barely in my nose when I pull the bowl and get a good whiff. But I did want one representative of such a good soap base in my collection, And this was available for a pretty low cost. Bought it used recently. Now, straight razor shavers generally like a thinner lather than dull edge razor guys. Now, maybe that means when compared to those overloading face lathering types that have a lot of concentrate on their face in that first pass. And so I'm going to just try doing my normal DE lather, which is keep getting it wet until it's right on the verge of stopping being creamy. I like to keep it a little creamy, but right on the edge to where if I add more water, it's no longer creamy. So kind of about as hydrated as I can get it. Still have it be a creamy texture. See how we're looking here. Hey, look at that stretch. Wow, that's a long, thin stretch right there. But look also, he's supporting his own weight. But if I turn him over, he's still moving kind of slow. That's nice. So let's keep going with the water. So we've got 4 teaspoons in there now. Well, it looks like I definitely loaded more lather, more soap on the brush than I'm going to need. But, it's all right. Haven't used this brush in a while, so I'm looking forward to that. And there we go. Let's just take a look here. Probably could take some more water, but let's just go with this. Let's make sure we have a nice uniform mix by mixing for just another 30 seconds, minute, whatever. All right. Splash water on my face. And let's tilt you up because I think we're ready to do this. All right. I'm not really nervous about a straight shave. In terms of cutting myself, I've been very cautious and very deliberate, very slow with my movements, trusting that the speed will come with practice and getting that muscle memory going in the beginning to where I feel good about it. Now, sometimes that slowness can literally bite you because the last time I used a straight, I was trying to position it here at my sideburns, and I had it actually touching my sideburns, but I didn't really know that it was there. And so in trying to align it, I ended up moving it this way, and you don't want to be moving a blade that way, and I ended up giving myself a little bit of a cut. But that's the worst that I've had so far. And it's nice because I don't have to work around my very predominant chin. I don't have to get up under my nose. So that makes it a little easier than some of you guys have to deal with. All right. A lot of backbone here, a lot of density, and this isn't even their, this is their like $35 finest badger. This is the one that they had for quite a while before they brought in some kind of finest badger that cost $55 or so, and they gave it a 3-letter designation, I think I would like to try one of those at some point. It may have more backbone than I want, so maybe it's fine that I haven't tried it. Get some of the soap off the side of the brush, kind of bringing it back to the middle. The tips are nice and soft. You know, these tips are, treated with bleach or, some type of product that weakens them and kind of turns them much softer than they might normally be. And let's just start adding a little bit more moisture. Should have known this is a good soap that can really hold water, so I should have taken it farther in the bowl. Sometimes just for grins, instead of making a well for the water in the knot there, I will put it on the side like you just saw me do and do the back and forth motion. Try to keep that water in the brush. I think that'll do. The handle that came with this knot was just too, it was like I was just holding a dowel. It didn't have really any contours, and so I broke it off, chipped at it with a hammer, and then dremeled the knot so that it would clean up the base of the knot to get ready for rehoming it in this handle here. All right, now with a straight, I don't want to get into this neck area where I don't have any hairs to cut. I will soft skin there, and so I'll definitely get some cuts if I do that. But with me, and since I'm kind of new, when in doubt, I'm just not going to shave that area. If I feel like maybe I'm treading on thin ice, I'll just come back with a double-edged blade. Now, I've done a lot of reading with straights, and one of the things that sometimes people do is put a towel on the counter, and so whenever you are shaving and you end up with kind of a blade full of soap, you then take it and just wipe it on the towel instead of rinsing the blade in water. That way you never risk getting water in your hinge. That's got some merit to it, but I don't really have a towel on hand, so let's just do the rinsing and be careful with it. All right, so here we go. This is a big guy. Now, how do you hold it? There's some different ways. You could do 3 fingers on the blade. You need to have one, at least one, back on this side. You can do 2 and 1 like that. And then, of course, this is the general idea when you're working on your cheeks. I am choosing to move the razor to my other hand when I'm doing the other side, kind of do it in an ambidextrous way. I did a little bit of reading about that, and I think I like the good and bad things that come with that. But then as you move to other parts like your neck, you may have to straighten out the handle to come at other parts in different ways. Now, the different approaches that you'll see me do, I mean, it's pretty easy and normal to do this on the cheeks. So, that's pretty good. But what I try in my neck, I'm experimenting and trying different things, and so don't necessarily think that that's a good idea. All right, here we go, folks. I did strop this about 50 to 60 times on a leather strop earlier today. So we've got that taken care of, and that's the maintenance thing that you do between shaves with a straight leather strop. And then eventually when the strop doesn't refresh it, or doesn't bring it back to adequate sharpness, then you need to have the blade edge refreshed. And I think usually that means like a 10,000, 12,000 type grit stone. And if you want to learn to do that yourself, you can. If you want to send the razor off to a honer, a honemeister, then you can do that too. Sometimes that costs 35, 40 bucks, something like that. But then it'd be good for perhaps another 200 shaves, 150 shaves, you know, that sort of thing. And that's the reason why people will have multiple straights, so that when one needs to be refreshed, they can mail it off and have it work done, and then they can be using another one. And that's also why with straights you might see a 7-day set, so that you have one for each day. And that way, if you get 200 shaves out of each one, that's basically 200 weeks. So that's pretty cool too, right? That's 2 years of shaving right there. That's not bad. All right. Pulling your skin tight-ish, is one of the keys to a nice smooth shave. So let me do that right. My glasses kind of get in the way. Another thing is, I don't know if this big razor is too much for me or not, so we'll just have to see. I don't think I'm getting the kind of slickness here that I really want. It feels maybe a little too dry. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kind of pause and add some water to my, and what was that? What did I tell you earlier? Either that's 4 or that's 6 teaspoons. I got a feeling that's 6 teaspoons total. So I added more water to my bowl here. Nothing wrong with kind of taking a step back and reevaluating during the learning process. But you know what? It felt great. It moved across my skin. There was a little bit of drag there, but it didn't feel aggressive or rough. It just felt consistent. So in terms of my first cheek being shaved with this razor, I'm really happy with that. I mean, it probably could have gone better if the lather would have been a little slicker. And if it takes if it takes you a while to cover parts of your face, then feel free to just go and re-lather. Or lather up half of your face, then shave that. Then lather up the other half, and that way you keep fresh, wet lather on your face. Okay. Now, that's the easy part, the cheeks. I actually usually can move along pretty quickly with my cheeks. So, I'm going to now, well, why don't we go ahead and do this side again. Yeah, that's better. Slowly move over toward the ear with caution, so that the tip of the razor doesn't scratch my ears. Now we will switch to the left-handed. Obviously I'm a little less dexterous with this. In a way I'm going by feel, because my hand is kind of in the way of me being able to see. there we go. Pretty uneventful. Good thing. Nice creamy lather on the blade. I don't have enough shaves under my belt yet to kind of know what that perfect feel is, you know, but the good thing is this one does seem to be shave ready. Whoever used it before kept it shave ready and sent it to me that way. He didn't use it too many times to where it needed to be refreshed. It seems like it's cutting nicely. All right, now the neck. One of the crucial things is, and this is kind of similar to when using a double-edged razor, I've got creases in my neck because I'm a big old fat fatty. And so I don't want the blade edge to come into those creases parallel with them, because then just bad stuff happens. You can get cut and stuff. So I'll turn it one way or the other, or at least I'll try to minimize that effect. This is pretty much a cross grain type stroke for me there. By keeping my neck tight, it protects the wrinkle. It protected the wrinkles, so I'm really happy about that. I did feel a little bit of tenderness around here, and so I backed off. All right, now let's see how easy it is. And I didn't actually stretch my skin very much. I should have. As you can see, I'm kind of moving, you know, reasonably quickly, clearing large areas pretty easily. And so I don't think a straight razor shave has to be a slower shave, but I am taking a cautious approach. Even in just handling the razor, I'm being very slow. As I'm moving it around, I don't want to nick the blade on the faucet, you know, that sort of thing. Well, I am happy with how that went. Very good, very good. Not a lot of residual slickness on this particular one. But listen to your razor as you go. If it's starting to feel kind of dry as you're moving it across your skin, just feel free to re-wet the lather. Go back to the bowl, get some more lather, you know. Do it right. Excellent. Rinse time. The rinse there really woke up the soap that was on my face, and it just was slick and tremendous. I also brought a boar with me, but it's my B23 boar that is still pretty young, and it's a bit on the stiff side. The tips are nice and soft, but I went ahead and went with a badger today since I knew that I would be shaving with a straight. All right, so pass number 2. The face felt pretty good during the rinse there. It didn't feel like I had missed a bunch of patches, you know, or had plenty of stubble left over, so I'm happy about that as well. While I rinsed, I also put my straight over away from the water so it wouldn't get splashed on. All right. So this will be my 3rd pass actually on this cheek, so I need to remember not to hit that again. Feels great because I'm just I'm just moving across, smooth skin. There are some types of irritation, kind of stealth irritation, where you don't feel it as you're shaving, but then at the end of the shave, you realize you've got some tenderness in certain places. I have generated that with some straights every now and then, but I'm just going to be careful here. I love the looks of these Wade & Butcher razors, even the ones that aren't just big like this one. This the kind of the arching hump here, the thickness of this, the curvature here. I just have instantly gravitated toward that look, and so I like the style of it as well, and I'm really enjoying the functionality. I was hoping that this big guy wouldn't be somehow made specifically for people who really know what they're doing, and so you can't really get a good shave with it until you've gotten your really foundation down, and maybe you've had a whole year's worth of straight shaves or something like that. But it seems like it's working really well. All right, let's switch over to my left and I'm not going to be too concerned about the closeness. I'm not going to chase, even with double-edged blades, I don't chase baby butt smooth. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of choosing a hybrid method. I am using the water to take the soap, the lather away from the blade, but then I'm taking the droplets away from the blade on my towel right there. And so that way I hope as I'm maneuvering the razor around, one of those droplets from the rinse doesn't make it down into the hinge. So maybe that's kind of a best of both worlds kind of scenario. I'm also choosing to do shorter strokes so that I can kind of sense. Now right here, I've got the hump of this tendon or muscle, neck muscle right there. I've also got a mole right there, so I have to be very careful. Very good. Now, if I wonder what could happen if I take some water here and just kind of splash it on my face. It kind of seems like I'm waking up some of the slickness there. Yeah, I think so. All right. It's looking pretty good. I'm really happy with that. So that was the third pass, I believe, or was that the second? I think it was the third pass for my cheek over here. But you know what? I might just call it a night. I'm going to rinse it, take a look at everything, and if I've gotten shaved well, then there's no reason to keep on going, right? Guys, I'm really happy with the closeness here. Very happy with that. Here in some of my neck areas, there is some length on a few of the tips and several of the tips, but that is fine. It's a presentable shave, and I'm such a new shaver with straight that's a pretty high standard for somebody being as new as me, and so I'm really happy about that. That's a win. I did notice some kind of tender areas as I did my cold water rinse, so I don't think I'm going to do another pass. I don't see any weepers. I do feel a little tender area here and maybe up here on my cheek. I think I may have swiped that area without having the blade at the right angle. Also, let me tell you, you can be conservative as you shave. And let's say here's my skin. And so maybe the proper angle might be something like this. But if you bring that spine here closer to your skin, then that's a conservative approach. And either it's going to be a comfortable pass and you're not going to cut too much hair because you're not steep enough, or you're going to cut hair properly. And so either of those is a win. If you raise it up too much, then either that's going to be just right or it's going to be a little too aggressive and too steep and give you irritation. And so I'd rather move the razor across and have it be a miss and then try again instead of being a little bit too aggressive. And so when I started straight shaving, I started with a very flat angle instead of something higher up like that. And that's my style, being cautious with something like this. And it's working for me. I'm really glad I did it that way. All right, well, lovely. So after this shave, I'm obviously going to dry off, make sure the blade is dried off, and then I will need to strop it. And then it'll be ready for tomorrow's shave. We'll see how long this guy goes before I feel him start to not cut quite as efficiently, and then I'll need to refresh the blade. I do plan on doing that myself, learning to do that. I do have some honing stones that I can do that with. So if when I do attempt to do that, I'll put it on video and see how embarrassed that makes me out there in the shaving world. But you know, that's how we learn, right? We just try. Okay, so I'm a happy camper. The tenderness is kind of coming and going. I don't really feel it very much. And so I bet I'd be fine if I needed to use an alcohol splash and get on with my day. For instance, if this was the morning. What a connection to shavers in our history when you straight shave. Because guys have been doing that for so long. And it's, of course, very manly. And I wanted to learn how to do it. In a sense, I didn't, because I was afraid if I loved it too much, all the wonderful double-edged razors I collected over the years would now have no home, and I'd have to give them, sell them. And I didn't want to do that. But I don't think that I'll get to that point, but who knows? We'll just keep playing around and see what happens. But I'm really happy with this shave. Really happy with the closeness. And man, I tell you, when you get close to your goatee, that straight will just mow this stuff down. So I'm happy there. If you have a little bit of tenderness and you want to use an alcohol splash, one of the things you can do prior to that is condition your face a little bit, heal it a little bit with some witch hazel. Thayer's has an alcohol toner with a little bit of witch hazel in it. You could use that. You could use Dickinson's pure witch hazel. You can also get witch hazel directly from Walmart, labeled as witch hazel. I assume that's good to use in a shaving type environment. But today I feel like smelling like Dunshire. This is one that I actually ordered because Acqua di Gio is one of my favorite colognes, and Dunshire is inspired by that particular scent. So let's put this healing goodness on my skin. So I started shaving with balms and products like this. How old was I? I'm just curious when I get old if I'm going to have a better face than some of my compatriots who use just spray foam and alcohol splash, and didn't really condition, hydrate their face afterwards. Of course, I got oily skin anyway, but yeah, that Dunshire's nice. Stirling is I think it's I would say it's a very good balm. I wouldn't say it's as good as something like Zingari Man or Soap Commander, but but I don't need it to be that good. Since I have oily skin, it's good for me. I think it's good for your average guy as well. I think it might fall short if you are a person with really dry skin. It's really kind of the place there, the dividing line. All right, well, I'm smelling good, smelling clean and fresh. It's a light, happy scent. I do have tons of lather left over. So, wow. There's some texture right there. See, this Viking soap can do it. That is some texture. Wonderful. Got a little bit of sheen to it. That's a great soap. I am going to keep fishing around. I may discover that they have another scent that I might be more interested in than this one. Let me put my nose in this one again. Yeah, it's really light. You can tell it's kind of a sweet woody, or at least not a pungent woody. It's not a cedar or a fir or something like that. It's more of a smooth woody type scent, and I like that. So I'll definitely keep it around until I can find a Viking soap with a enjoyable scent that's a little stronger. So here I'm washing my brush, rinsing it out. It's handy to have a bowl to do that. I hold this under the water at a tilt so water can flow in, fill it up to this level, and then it flows out. And so as the water circulates, I can work the brush, keep it underwater, and really get lots of water in it to rinse. And then, after I feel like I've done it for a while, I stick the brush into the sink and I sling it back and forth like this to throw the water out. Now, then I check it, because if there's any soap in the middle that I haven't gotten to, then me slinging it will often bring some soap bubbles to the surface, and that's a cue that I need to keep rinsing. So make sure you do that, because the alkalis in the soap and or other chemical things can break your brush hairs and cause it to start to be a shedder, in addition to things like mold and mildew and all that. So to sum up, I really did enjoy shaving with this big, old, wide body razor. It does have a little bit of a concave nature to it. Probably not a full hollow, but maybe half hollow, something like that. And so it had lots of support for the blade. I felt the blade was really consistent. If I made the right stroke, then it was going to not bite me. And that's pretty much what ended up happening. I still don't have any weepers, and I'm not experiencing any irritation as I'm moving around in general. Just maybe a little bit of tenderness around in my neck area. But you know what? 10, 15 minutes, I'm sure that'll be gone. Until I find a better holder for my straights, a quick purchase at the Dollar Tree. This is for eyeglasses. It's pretty thin. It's just a sewed up piece of fabric with some felt on the inside, and it's $1. And if they're smaller straights, you can fit 2 of them in here. But this guy is bigger, and so he gets one all by himself. So until I find a nice little unfolding thing with slots for each straight razor, which is I think what I'm going to go with, until then, this guy will do nicely. Well, I'm really pleased. Like I said, I was concerned that such a big razor might be difficult for a noob like me to use, and it wasn't. It was a joy. I like the looks of it. It felt good in my hand. It moved through the hairs with a double edge. If it's a heavy razor, then it's smoother many times because it's got that inertia as it's sliding across your face. Now with this straight, it's a similar thing. It's able to move through the hairs with a little bit of inertia. Now I'm not exactly feeling as much slickness with when I'm using the straights as I do with the double edged. Maybe because of the metal and the stuff, as the double edge has a safety bar in the top cap to maybe provide some extra smoothness as it's moving across your skin. It feels like it's slicker, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of curious. I'll think about that. Maybe ask some folks some questions. But the sound of it was nice. It was a quieter sound. Sometimes I do have a few of the thinner razors, and they have a little bit more of a sound to them because there's less mass to dampen the sound as it moves across your face. And so I appreciated that about this razor. So really happy with the way this first shave turned out with this Wade and Butcher, probably a 9/8 width razor. So happy camper. Dunshire smelling nice on me, doing its job as a balm. And what else? The brush. I do hope that it relaxes over time. If it stays this firm, it was inexpensive, so I'll probably keep it around because you never know if your desires, if your preferences change. All of a sudden, if I discover I don't like those soft cloud-like brushes anymore, I want something with some backbone, but still some soft tips, but give me some backbone, then this guy will be there waiting for me. All right, I think that'll do. Well, thank you for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves, and I sure hope that if you're a straight razor noob like me, that this has been somehow helpful to you, if only to show you that it's not a big, scary thing to learn how to use a straight razor. And I think starting with a double-edged razor is a good idea because you can get your lather skills on point. And then when you want to start with a straight, that's not a variable that you're working on. And so there's something to that. But hopefully my journey will help you guys to at least take some of the mystery out of shaving with a straight razor. I know there was a lot of it for me. The good news is there are a lot of guys out there doing videos right now. Lynn Abrams has a lot of videos online, and he is a veteran straight shaver. And so I've been told by other straight folks that they recommend, and they say he can be trusted pretty well with straight razor shaving advice and things like that if you want more learning and more knowledge to come your way. All right, now, have a good night. Take care.